So my work at Community Legal Services focuses on immigrant youth, both youth who've lived in the community for a number of years, who came here as children, as well as youth who are more recently arrived, who are newer members of the community. We mainly focus on deportation defense, which means helping youth who are having to go to immigration court and who are fighting to stay here in the United States. So in the past, the San Mateo County Juvenile Probation Department would call ICE and report youth who were there in the Youth Services Center at Hillcrest, and call ICE so that ICE could go to the juvenile detention facility, interview youth, and then arrest them and take them into immigration custody, where they would then be at risk of deportation. And ultimately, we were successful through the work of the coalition. We were able to get San Mateo County to change their policy so that they're no longer reporting youth to ICE, which is huge in terms of the impact. So in partnership with YUCA and a number of other organizations here in San Mateo County, we've been working with the probation department to stop that practice. We did a number of different campaigns. We had a big town hall meeting so that the community was aware of what was happening, and the community could voice, their opinion on whether this is something that we as a community wanted to see happen to our young people. Really just hope YUCA is able to continue doing the work that it's doing. I think it's a great, on the one hand, I want to say, I hope YUCA expands and it gets bigger, but I think one of the strengths of YUCA is that it is such a community, that it is quite a small organization, but I think that means that everyone works really closely together. It's really a close-knit community, and there's so much support for the young people, and I think that's so key to its mission and so key to its success.
Since I've arrived at Community Legal Services about a year ago in September of 2013, since the very beginning, I've been working very closely with some of the staff and the youth at YUCA, organizing and advocating around housing issues here in the community. So specifically, I work with YUCA folks as part of the Envision, Transform, Build East Palo Alto Coalition. And that's a coalition that's come around in order to advocate for equitable housing policies and laws within the city's general plan update process. The idea here is we want East Palo Alto to be a city that's guided by its own residents and not by developers or some outside interest who wants to just come in here and make a profit off the folks who have lived here for so long. One of the biggest victories that we've been able to achieve in the last year working together with the ETB-EPA coalition is that we successfully drafted, organized around, and passed in the city council an entire new law here in the city. And that law, we've been calling it the Tenant Protection Ordinance. One of the critical strategies that we identified early on was that we needed to have our own people on some of the advisory bodies that the city was organizing in order to influence this process. I remember particularly one of the YUCA youth, Amber, was able to get herself onto one of the advisory bodies, the West Side Advisory Committee for the general plan process. And having folks like Amber on that committee was really fundamental in enabling us to channel some of the energy and the demands that we were hearing from residents into the city's process to make sure that those demands were actually guiding the process itself. And I think it was my first week on the job that I went to my first coalition meeting. So I remember going down over to the office here on Clark and waltzing in there, feeling sort of, confused and new, but being really welcomed by people and being really impressed by the folks who I got to know. And that's both the staff, Annie and Tamika, as well as the youth who were working on this project. And from the very beginning, I knew that I was working with community activists who had a vision and who were really deeply committed to engaging and working to make sure that this community retains all of its values and that the city government functions in a way that aligns with those community values. And that was just for me a total pleasure because that's so important to the work that I do on the legal side, to have people who are rooted in this community, who know it like the back of their hand because they grew up here, and who can help guide me and educate me a little bit about what some of the history is, how we got to the place where we are now, and even ever since my first week, I feel like I've been learning things from the staff and the youth at YUCA in order to keep pushing that project forward. I just don't think I could do the work that I do as well if I didn't have those relationships and the opportunity to work with the people at YUCA.
I've known of YUCA since about 1999. It was an organizing model, it was community-based, it was trying to come up with solutions internally to economic and social justice issues and environmental justice issues, that I came to the YUCA offices and spoke with Sharice Domingo and said, look, I'm on the planning commission, I'm vice chair, I'd like to see if we could open what I call the second front to the ROMIC campaign. I'd love to be able to work with you to see what we could do around the land use planning and zoning of that toxic use in the city that might give us additional leverage to move them out of the community. That was the first time I met with YUCA. It was actually with Sharice and a number of youth. And within about 2 months, we were already beginning to talk about the formation of this coalition called EDGI, the Environmental Justice Group. And so that just turned into one project over another. And YUCA continued to do its work with DTSC, with the US EPA, with Cal EPA. And they also continue to do work now with the second front, which was looking at land use, looking at zoning, figuring out how the local mechanisms that we had, that we controlled, could be harnessed to remove and improve our community. And ultimately, I think the combination of working with DTSC, US EPA in confrontational ways at times, sometimes collaboratively, and also trying to figure out how we work with land use and zoning changes, I think helped get ROMIC out. And that is a huge, huge victory for YUCA. And I can unabashedly say that ROMIC would still be here if YUCA had not taken the long view and worked 15 hard, it may have been 17 hard, toiling years to try to get them out, never relenting during that entire time. Been working with you guys, with YUCA for almost going on 10 years, that's 2005. Half of your life. But you've been around for 20, and you've made huge inroads in galvanizing support for critical issues and getting people active and involved in the political and economic life of this city. And more importantly, you've laid the groundwork and you've created organizers who continue to live in this city and who continue to work on critical issues. I would hope very much that in 20 more years, I'm not honored, but I will be around to see the 40th anniversary of YUCA, in which I can look back at another 20 years of long, tough struggles that I'm sure you will be engaged in and you'll be winning over that period.
Young people of color taking office within the context of East Palo Alto makes complete sense. East Palo Alto was founded on ideals of self-determination. So part of being able to determine the future of a city like East Palo Alto means young people need to hold a lever to be able to make decisions for the community. And now more than ever, East Palo Alto is in a place where it's being squeezed out physically, in terms of its dreams and all that. So with the kind of political analysis and the organizing that YUCA is able to provide, young people can take those leadership reins in East Palo Alto and change the system and create laws that could really protect the community and become a blueprint for the rest of the country. So one of the main organizing projects that we run is the Albert Cobarrubias Justice Project. It was named after one of our members here at DBUG who unfortunately lost his life due to unnecessary violence. And we named the project after him so that when we go to the courts and we go, someone comes home from jail or someone is able to beat their deportation, we can do it in his name. ACJP is a family and community organizing model that we use to help transform the courts in order to end incarceration before it even starts. And we have amazing families who come in here on Sundays and Tuesdays and support each other in being able to fight for their loved ones who are fighting cases in criminal justice or immigration courtrooms, to let them know they're not alone. So I remember back when I was 18 or 19 years old, and a mentor, and I'll talk to a mentor of mine named Nadine Cruz. I found her at Stanford, and she was like a mentor of mine. And she said, you know, sometimes there are things that are just, there are things that you are being called to do. And so I feel like YUCA is, and debug is, like an expression of that. To stop like being there and saying, oh, why is it that this, and you know, agonizing over these questions of justice and life, and then just live it. Live those answers. So live it every day. Live it in your big dreams of like what 10 years from now it's gonna look like, and live it at the moment when your child asks you, why did my friend's father die in the hands of the police? So happy birthday, YUCA. I hope that we'll be here again when you turn 40, when you turn 50, you turn 75. And I hope that when we turn 40, 50, and 75, and 100, our world is in a different place because YUCA made it that. Because because young people who pass through YUCA's doors carry those principles however way they lived. So, y'all, I'm 40.